In just 12 minutes, discover 10 explosive takeaways from Shane Smith's interview with Jordan Peterson on university lies, cancel culture, climate panic, China's silent takeover, and the sacrifice that could save the West. This is what they're not telling you. Takeaway 1. The lie universities keep telling students. Jordan Peterson begins by revealing what he sees as one of the biggest lies students are told in modern universities. That lie, according to him, is that they are being taught how to think freely, when in fact they're being trained to repeat a very narrow set of political and social beliefs. He says that universities have shifted from being places where debate and truth were sacred to institutions ruled by ideological groupthink, especially from the far left. Peterson explains that professors who challenge this dominant narrative risk being denied promotions, shamed, or even fired. This creates a culture of fear where only one view is allowed to exist. He says the lie runs so deep that many students don't even realize it's happening. They think they're independent thinkers, but really they're being pushed to follow a script. He described how this started happening around 2010, when identity politics and social justice ideology took over faculty departments, especially in the humanities and social sciences. Universities, he says, are now producing more activists than thinkers. Peterson shares a powerful example from his own life. He was invited to lecture at Cambridge on the Book of Exodus, an ancient and deeply intellectual topic. But soon after, the university suddenly canceled his visit without even informing him directly. He found out from Twitter. This backlash came simply because of his views on free speech and compelled language. Yet the public outrage was so strong that the professors at Cambridge held the largest internal vote since World War II to protest the cancellation. The result? The university was forced to rewrite its free speech policy. For Peterson, these experiences prove that modern academia is not just failing students. It's betraying them. It promises knowledge but delivers indoctrination. It claims to value diversity, yet it crushes dissent. And that's why he no longer wants to set foot in most universities, despite once loving them deeply. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2, how Peterson was canceled and fought back. After refusing to comply with Canada's Bill C-16, Jordan Peterson became an international symbol of resistance to what he calls forced speech. The law was meant to protect gender identity, but Peterson argued that it forced people to use certain pronouns by threat of legal punishment. He said the government shouldn't have control of your tongue. His critics called him transphobic, but Peterson insisted his fight was not against people. It was against the idea that language could be controlled by the state. His stand triggered student protests, media attacks, and institutional bans. Yet instead of backing down, Peterson fought back publicly. He explains that being canceled didn't destroy him. It multiplied his reach. For example, when Cambridge canceled his seminar, the backlash was so big that it caused structural change within the university. Later, he delivered the same seminar through the Daily Wire, reaching far more people than he would have in a lecture hall. These experiences hardened his belief that when people stand up for what's right, even if the cost is high, the long-term effect is almost always positive. In his words, you get stronger, not weaker, when you refuse to lie. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, the left is now scared of its own. Jordan Peterson explains that political lines have become so extreme that even longtime liberals are now getting pushed out of their own side. He uses Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as an example. RFK Jr. used to be a mainstream liberal, but after raising questions about vaccines and environmental policies, he was branded as a traitor by the left. Peterson says, this is what happens when you build a purity cult. Sooner or later, no one is pure enough. He also mentions figures like Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and Tulsi Gabbard, none of whom were ever considered right-wing. But because they challenged elite narratives, they were attacked and labeled as dangerous or right-wing extremists. Peterson argues that these people didn't change. The culture around them became intolerant. He explains that this shift is giving rise to a new kind of coalition. It includes former liberals, independents, classical conservatives, and people who simply value free speech. They don't all agree politically, but they're united in their rejection of lies, censorship, and social coercion. In this new world, Peterson says, the old political labels no longer work. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4, why Peterson believes in sacrifice over pleasure. Peterson believes that Western culture is falling apart because it no longer values self-discipline, hard work, and sacrifice. Instead, it teaches people to chase pleasure, power, and personal identity above all else. He says that this obsession with desire is hollow, and it leaves people anxious, disconnected, and weak. According to Peterson, what really holds a society together is voluntary self-sacrifice, doing hard things not because you're forced to, but because you believe they matter. He says that people used to understand this through religion, marriage, and raising families. These were not easy paths, but they gave people a deeper sense of meaning. He uses marriage as an example. He explains that in a real relationship, you don't just follow your feelings. You make sacrifices, you compromise, and you support each other even when it's hard. And through that, something beautiful is built. He believes that a culture built on this principle can last, but one built only on desire will eventually collapse. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5, you've been lied to about climate change. Peterson is not a climate change denier, but he strongly criticizes the fear-based way in which environmental issues are handled. He says that the public has been manipulated into panic, and that this panic leads to disastrous policies, especially for the poor. He gives Germany as a warning. In their rush to go green, they shut down nuclear plants and invested in wind and solar. But because those energy sources are unreliable, they had to reopen coal plants, burning some of the dirtiest fuel available. Instead of reducing pollution, they made it worse. Peterson also points out that since industrialization, the Earth has actually greened by 20%. That's because carbon dioxide helps plants grow, especially in dry areas. He's not saying pollution is good, but he questions why no one talks about the positive side effects. He believes that cheap, clean energy like nuclear power is being ignored because of fear, not science. And the ones who suffer most are poor people who cannot afford rising energy costs. We're halfway through the video. Thanks for sticking with us. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. If you'd like to support us, please tap the thanks button below. It helps us keep making great content. Drop a comment and don't forget to hit subscribe for more. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. China is winning the tech and power game. Jordan Peterson warns that China's growing power is a serious threat to the West. He describes how China now uses 700 million surveillance cameras that can identify people by how they walk. Their social credit system punishes citizens by tracking behavior and denying basic services if they fall out of line. Even worse, China is exporting this surveillance model to Africa and other developing countries. Peterson says this is a modern form of digital colonialism, where authoritarian control spreads quietly through technology. He worries that the West is not responding with strength or unity. Instead, it's distracted by internal fights and ideological chaos. For example, he points out how even in countries like the UK, cars are being fitted with trackers and alarm systems that punish small rule breaking. It's a soft version of what China's doing. He believes the West needs to get serious about innovation, productivity, and unity, or it risks being overtaken. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. The health crisis that nearly killed Peterson. Jordan Peterson describes a brutal personal health collapse that lasted years and almost ended his life. It started when he developed akathisia, a condition so painful he says it felt like being burned alive from the inside. He was walking miles every day just to stay sane. The condition came from a reaction to benzodiazepines, which he was prescribed during a stressful period. At the same time, his wife was diagnosed with a terminal cancer that almost no one survives. They were told she had no chance. His daughter also had ongoing health issues. The combined weight of this suffering pushed him to the edge. Eventually, he had to be put into a medically induced coma in Russia just to survive withdrawal. He said the pain was so intense that most people with akathisia describe it as the worst torture imaginable. Despite it all, Peterson survived. And even more unbelievably, his wife fully recovered. He believes that love and support from his family and the prayers of thousands of strangers played a key role in keeping him alive. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. He saw evil and found love instead. Peterson says that if you really look at the worst parts of human history, things like the Holocaust or Stalin's gulags, you cannot explain them away with politics alone. What you see is real evil, something deeper than ideology. He believes that evil is a real force in the world, and you must face it honestly if you want to live a good life. But in facing that evil, Peterson says you also discover what is good. During his darkest days, what kept him going was the love from his wife and family. He says, pain is real, but love is more real than pain. This belief helped him hold on, even when life seemed unbearable. He believes that love is not just an emotion, it is a choice, a force that holds the world together. And that's what gives life real meaning. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9, Peterson's plan to save the West. Peterson has launched an international group called the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. It brings together people from all over the world who believe in free speech, cheap energy, family stability, and moral responsibility. He says that you don't have to agree on everything politically to work together on basic values. He argues that expensive energy harms everyone, especially the poor, and that if you want people to care about the environment, you have to make sure they are not starving first. He believes that when people reach even a modest level of income, around $5,000 a year, they start caring about things beyond survival. Peterson wants to shift the focus from global control to local empowerment. His vision is bottom-up. Change individuals first, and society will follow. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10, why Peterson still believes in hope. Despite facing extreme suffering, global criticism, and deep cultural breakdown, Jordan Peterson says he still has hope for the future. He believes the West is worth saving because it is still the place where most people in the world want to live. He sees signs of a quiet but growing movement. Young men and women are rejecting the empty promises of self-indulgence and returning to the basics: family, faith, and purpose. He hears stories from people every day who have turned their lives around using his ideas. He believes that if enough people stop lying, take responsibility, and aim toward meaning, we can rebuild something better. And that's why he keeps speaking, writing, and fighting. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.